I never thought I'd see the day when my own backyard turned into a battlefield, but there it was, my wife, fresh off a 12-month deployment in the sandbox, pulling into our driveway only to have the neighborhood busybody screech like a banshee and dial 911 because she looked suspicious. That's right. After dodging IEDs and pulling her squad out of ambushes, Staff Sergeant Elena Ramirez got treated like a common criminal by none other than Karen Whitaker, the self-appointed queen of Willow Creek, HOA, who waddled out in her yoga pants 2 sizes too small and demanded to see proper identification before the cops even rolled up. And me? I stood there on the porch, fists clenched, watching the woman who'd spent the last year saving lives get handcuffed like some low-life squatter, all because Karen couldn't stand the sight of a beat-up government-issued Jeep blocking her precious view of the community mailbox. What made it worse? What turned my blood to ice was realizing this wasn't just some petty spat over lawn ornaments or holiday lights. No, Karen had been gunning for us long before Elena's boots hit stateside soil. She'd been whispering poison in the ears of every Karen Shevik on the block, accusing us of lowering property values with our military mess, while she lorded over the HOA like it was her personal fiefdom. But the real gut punch? The one that had me plotting in the dead of night? Karen wasn't just a nosy tyrant. She was the CEO of a Fortune 500 logistics firm, the kind of cutthroat exec who crushed unions for fun and donated to politicians who kept the borders tight. And now, with Elena's badge, not just any badge, but a sworn deputy star from the county sheriff's office, flashing under the cruiser lights, I knew payback was coming, slow and savage, the American way, through the courts, the press, and a little old-fashioned exposure of her skeletons. By the time the real badges arrived, 2 stone-faced deputies who knew Elena from her reserve stints. The air crackled with that electric hum of impending chaos, the kind you feel right before a summer storm rips through the Midwest. Karen, red-faced and sputtering, jabbed a manicured finger at my wife like she was starring in her own bad Lifetime movie, yelling about trespassers and HOA violations while the neighbors peek from behind their minivan windshields, phones out, live streaming the whole circus. I could taste the bile rising in my throat, years of bottled-up rage from her endless citations for our unkempt flower beds, wild Texas poppies Elena had planted as a reminder of home, now boiling over into something primal. This wasn't just about one call to the cops. It was the spark that would burn her empire to the ground, and damn if I wasn't ready to fan the flames. The sun hung low over Willow Creek like a guilty verdict, painting the cookie-cutter colonials in that golden hour glow that realtors love to slap on brochures. It was a Thursday in late August, the kind of sticky hot evening where the cicadas buzz and the AC units hum in desperate harmony. I'd been pacing the living room since dawn, coffee going cold on the side table, staring at the faded photo of Elena in her desert camis, that rare grin splitting her face after she'd nailed her marksmanship quals. 12 months. That's how long she'd been gone, humping gear through the Hindu Kush, calling me on spotty sat phones to whisper about missing my mom's tamales and promising she'd be back before the leaves turned. I believed her because I had to, because in our line of work, doubt is the real enemy. Me? I'm Javier Ramirez, 38, a systems analyst for a mid-tier cybersecurity firm out of Dallas. The guy who firewalls corporate secrets while dreaming of a quiet ranch somewhere in the hill country. We bought this place 5 years back, a 3-bed rancher on a cul-de-sac that screamed starter family to anyone with a pulse. It was our slice of the American dream. Mortgage payments that didn't choke us, a backyard big enough for Elena's herb garden, and neighbors who wave from their driveways instead of filing complaints. Or so I thought. Enter Karen Whitaker, 52, CEO of Apex Freight Solutions, the logistics behemoth that shipped everything from Amazon hauls to Black Friday regrets across the heartland. She moved in 2 doors down with her trophy hubby, a balding accountant named Greg who spent weekends polishing his Tesla, and immediately turned the HOA into her personal Thunderdome. It started small, the way these things do in suburbia. A passive-aggressive email about our non-compliant mailbox flag, which was 1 inch too low according to the covenants she'd probably written in her sleep. Then came the flags, actual American flags, the kind Elena flew proudly on the 4th, deemed distracting because they fluttered in the breeze like they had opinions. I shrugged it off at first. Elena was deployed, and I was flying solo, buried in code audits and little league carpools for our son, Mateo, who was 6 and already asking when Mommy was coming home with her magic stories from far away. But Karen? She escalated like a bad sequel nobody asked for. Anonymous notes in our door about noise disturbances from Mateo's laughter. Kid had a giggle that could wake the dead, and fines for aesthetic infractions on Elena's poppies, which, let's be real, were the only color in that beige-ass neighborhood. By month 6 of deployment, I'd had enough. I showed up at the HOA meeting in the community center, a strip mall eyesore with folding chairs and weak coffee, ready to play nice. Big mistake. Karen presided like a drag queen at brunch, her double chin quivering under fluorescent lights as she droned on about preserving our investment. When I raised my hand, calm as a monk, Javier, remember your abuela's rosary. She cut me off mid-sentence. Mr. Ramirez, she drawled in that fake southern lilt she affected for boardrooms. We appreciate your service, truly, but rules are rules. Your wife's absences have led to neglect. Perhaps a military family discount on dues. The room tittered, a pack of bobblehead wives in athleisure nodding like bobbleheads on a dashboard. I felt the heat crawl up my neck, that Ramirez fire Elena always teased me about, but I bit it back. For her. For us. Walked out with my head high, but inside, I was sketching contingencies, the cybersecurity nerd in me already mapping her digital footprints. Fast forward to pickup day. Elena's flight landed at DFW at noon. I had Mateo hyped on juice boxes and a playlist of her favorite Tejano tracks blasting from the Jeep speakers. We beat the traffic back to Willow Creek, hearts pounding with that stupid, giddy anticipation you only get after staring down the abyss. The street was quiet, too quiet, like the calm before a HOA audit. I pulled into the drive, gravel crunching under tires worn from desert runs. And there she was, stepping out in civvies, jeans faded from salt and sand, her dark hair pulled into a no-nonsense ponytail, that deputy's badge glinting on her belt like a promise. Mateo bolted from the back seat, wrapping around her legs like a vine, and God, I just froze, drinking her in, the woman who'd FaceTimed me from foxholes now solid and real under our magnolia tree. Then the screech, high-pitched, like brakes on black ice. Karen burst from her front door. Okay, waddled, her moo-moo straining at the seams. Phone already to her ear, jowls flapping as she hollered. Yes, officer? There's an intruder. Armed possibly. In the Ramirez driveway. Oh God, she's got a weapon. Elena's sidearm, holstered from a reserve gig. That's what she meant. My wife, who could disassemble an M4 blindfolded, suddenly public enemy number 1, because her Jeep had mud flaps from Kandahar. I lunged forward, Mateo clinging to my leg, yelling, Karen, what the hell? That's my wife. But she was in full diva mode, blocking the porch steps, eyes wild behind her cheaters. Stay back, Javier. I've called it in trespassing, violation of Covenant 7.2. Unauthorized vehicles. Elena just stood there, one hand on Mateo's head, the other hovering near her badge, her face that mask of professional calm she'd perfected in briefings. But I saw the flicker, the exhaustion from redeployment crashing against this bullshit welcome home parade. The sirens wailed distant at first, then close, 2 Willow Creek PD cruisers fishtailing onto the lawn like they owned the place. Outspilled for uniforms, hands on Glocks, barking orders. Hands where we can see 'em. Ma'am, step away from a vehicle. Karen preened like she'd just won the lottery, arms crossed under her ample bosom, smirking at the gathering crowd. Mrs. Patel from across the street filming on her iPhone, old Mr. Hargrove muttering about these days. I throw my hands, voice cracking. Officers, this is Staff Sergeant Elena Ramirez, U.S. Army Reserves. She's home from deployment. Check her ID. One cop, a rookie with a mustache that screamed community college, eyed her badge dubiously. Ma'am, we gotta verify. Elena complied, slow and steady, flipping open her credential case, the sheriff's star shining like Judgment Day. Karen's smirk faltered just a twitch, but I caught it. That's not possible. she stammered. She's not authorized. The HOA board approved, no sublets or whatever this is. The lead deputy, a grizzled vet named Kowalski who'd bought Elena a beer after her last training rotation, barked a laugh. Whitaker, you gotta be shitting me. This here's Deputy Ramirez, sworn in last year. You just tried to 911 a county officer for parking in her own damn driveway. The color drained from Karen's face, leaving her looking like overcooked shrimp. The neighbors gasped, actual audible gasps, the kind you hear in church scandals. Phones kept rolling, hashtags already brewing. HOA Karen busted, welcome home fail. But me? I wasn't laughing. Not yet. As the cops uncuffed Elena, apologies tumbling out like loose change, I locked eyes with Karen over the hood of the Jeep. Her empire, built on bullying and bylaws, had just cracked, and I, the quiet coder with a grudge, was about to hammer in the wedge. That night, after tucking Mateo in with stories of mommy's adventure, Elena crashed on the couch, jet-lagged and furious in that quiet way of hers. I poured us whiskeys, real stuff from the bottle her unit smuggled back, and whispered, "Babe, this ends now." She nodded, tracing the badge's edge. "Your lead, Javi, but make it hurt." So I did. First stop, the HOA forum, that digital witch hunt disguised as a newsletter. I uploaded the body cam footage Kowalski slipped me. Karen's meltdown in 4K glory, captioned with Elena's service record, redacted for OPSEC but glowing with medals. Welcome home, Deputy Ramirez. When HOA security meets real badges. Views spiked overnight. Shares from military spouses groups, viral on Nextdoor like wildfire on dry grass. Karen's inbox? Flooded. Her board? Panicking. But that was just the appetizer. I'd hacked, legally through public records, into Apex Freight's compliance filings. Turns out, our queen had a side hustle in skirting EPA regs, dumping runoff from her warehouses into county streams. Whistleblower tip, anonymous, straight to the feds. Call it karma with a keyboard. By week's end, the first lawsuit dropped. Elena, suing for defamation and emotional distress, citing the PTSD flare from that fake arrest. Karen's lawyers, big firm sharks from Houston, tried to settle quiet, but Elena's no pushover. Full apology, she said in depot, voice steel. Public. And your resignation from HOA, Karen squawked, but the judge, a no-nonsense Latina from Laredo, wasn't buying her tears. Ms. Whitaker, your actions weren't just negligent. They were un-American. The gavel cracked like thunder, and just like that, Willow Creek's tyrant was dethroned. But revenge, American style, isn't quick. It's a slow bleed. I watched from my porch as Karen's Tesla got repossessed. Turns out Apex stock tanked 15% on the EPA probe leak, and Greg packed his golf clubs, muttering about irreconcilable differences. She tried one last Hail Mary, a midnight knock on our door, mascara running like black rivers. "Javier, please." I was just protecting the community. I leaned in the frame, Elena's badge on a mantle behind me, catching the porch light. Community? Nah, Karen. That ended when you called the cops on a soldier. Now get off my property before I call the real ones. She slunk away, a deflated balloon, and for the first time in years, the street felt quiet. Real quiet. Suburbia has this illusion of safety, like the picket fences are force field against the world's sharp edges. But peel back the vinyl siding, and it's all termites and grudges, especially when money and power get involved. After the cruiser lights faded and Elena finally slept, curled against me on the couch, her breath steady for the first time in months, I couldn't shut my brain off. Mateo's nightlight glowed from his room, casting superhero shadows on the walls, a reminder of why we fought. But Karen? She crossed a line that no amount of community potlucks could scrub clean. Calling the cops on a returning vet? That wasn't ignorance. That was malice, wrapped in the flag of standards. I started digging the next morning, coffee black as my mood, laptop humming on the kitchen island. Elena was at the VA for her out-processing physical, standard stuff, blood work, and shrinks asking if the dreams had come back yet. She brushed it off with a kiss. Handle the home front, mi amor. I've got the ghosts. So I did, channeling every bite of my IT wizardry into Operation Karenfall. First, the low-hanging fruit, public records. Harris County Clerk's Office, a digital gold mine if you know where to grep. Karen Whitaker, née Hargrove, had clawed her way from junior exec to C-suite by her early 40s. Apex Freight her crown jewel. But skeletons? Oh, they rattled loud. A 2012 EEOC complaint from a Latino warehouse worker. Dismissed, but with a settlement that smelled like hush money. Then, the real dirt. Her role in a 2018 class action over misclassified truckers. Apex dodging overtime like it was the plague. I cross-referenced with HOA filings. Willow Creek's covenants? Karen's fingerprints all over them. Amended twice in her tenure to hike dues on non-traditional homes. Code for ours, the only brown family on the block. She'd even pushed a security enhancement fee that funneled cash to her buddy's private patrol service. Cozy. By noon, I had a dossier thicker than a Tolstoy paperback, emailed to Elena's reserve JAG contact for review. Defamation's just the hook, she texted back from the clinic. Reel her in slow. That's my wife, strategist to the bone, the one who taught me chess moves in boot camp letters. The backlash hit Karen like a freight train. Ironic, given her day job. Next door exploded. HOA Hitler calls cops on hero vet, with my video racking up 5K views. Comments poured in, vets sharing their own stories of entitled neighbors, soccer moms confessing years of bullying. One post from Mrs. Patel, Karen fined me $200 for Diwali lights last year. This is karma, y'all. The HOA board called an emergency Zoom, leaked minutes courtesy of a sympathetic treasurer, and Karen's defense was pure delusion. It was a misunderstanding. Javier's wife looked disheveled. Disheveled? After saving asses in uniform? I screenshotted it, forwarded to the local Fox affiliate. By evening, a perky reporter named Trish was at our door, mic in hand, Elena charming the camera with her service bio while I played the outraged hubby in the background. Karen's counterpunch came swift, the way cornered execs swing. A cease and desist from her firm, stamped with gold-embossed letterhead, demanding we retract the slanderous footage. Elena laughed over takeout fajitas. Mateo smearing beans on his face like war paint. They're scared, Javi. Good. We lawyered up quick. Elena's cousin Rosa, a pit bull attorney from Austin who'd sued Big Oil for breakfast. Rosa's take? This is gold. IED claim. Intentional infliction of emotional distress. Plus, selective enforcement under Fair Housing Act. She's toast. We filed Monday. The complaint a scalpel, detailing Karen's pattern of harassment from the mailbox BS to the flag fines, all laced with undertones of xenophobia that made Rosa's eyes flash. They hate us thriving, she said, clinking glasses. Time to thrive louder. Willow Creek turned into a pressure cooker. Signs sprouted on lawns. Support our vets, not HOA vets. And a petition circulated to oust Karen from the board. She retaliated with a town hall rant. Live on the community Facebook, her face a bloated tomato under ring lights. This is about order. If we let one Jeep slide, next it's RVs and roosters. Javier and his family need to respect the community they've chosen. The pause before family hung like smoke, and the chat blew up. Boycott Apex trending locally, with calls to ditch her company's shipping for UPS. Apex's PR spun it as internal matter, but stock dipped another 3%, whispers of boardroom coups filtering through Glassdoor reviews. I kept the pressure on, anonymous tips to investigative pods like Behind the Bylaws, that true crime series on Spotify that docs corrupt condos. They bit hard, dispatching a producer to interview Elena over coffee at the VFW hall. She spilled it raw, the deployment grind, the redeploy jitters, then bam, cuffs on her wrists in her own driveway. I served so folks like her could sleep safe, she said, voice cracking just enough for the mic, but she turned my homecoming into a perp walk. The episode dropped Friday, Suburban Siege, the HOA that hated heroes, climbing charts overnight. Karen's voicemails to our landline? Unhinged. You'll regret this, Ramirez. I know people. Yeah? So did we. Judges, journalists, and a network of vets who'd have her back like a fire team. The real twist hit mid-September, when Greg Whitaker lawyered up for divorce. Turns out, he'd been squirreling cash in a separate account, tired of bankrolling her hobbies, code for the Louis Vuitton collection gathering dust while dues collectors circled. He spilled to Rosa off record. Years of her rages, the affairs with pool boys and personal trainers, the way she'd weaponized the HOA against anyone who crossed her. She's a black hole, Javier. Sucks everything in. We didn't use it. Not yet, but fueled the fire. Elena started patrols in her unmarked cruiser, Deputy Judy's pulling her to night shifts, but she'd text me memes of Karens and mugshots. For your viewing pleasure, babe. By month's end, the EPA probe I'd tipped went public. Federal inspectors swarming Apex's Houston depot, citing violations that could cost millions. Karen's face on the evening news? Priceless. Pinched and powdered, denying everything while her empire crumbled. She cornered me at the mailbox cluster one crisp morning, breath like stale Merlot. This you? The leaks. I met her gaze, casual as Sunday brunch. Me? Nah, Karen. Just a guy who believes in consequences. Like the ones you're about to face in court. She huffed away, but the tremble in her hands? That was the sound of checkmate. Elena and I celebrated small that night. Tacos al pastor from the truck on Mockingbird. Mateo conked out early. Proud of you, she murmured, her head on my shoulder. For fighting smart. But as the stars wheeled over the hood, I knew it wasn't over. Karen's kind don't fade quiet. They claw back. And when they do, that's when the real storm breaks. October rolled in like a bad check, all promise and no payout. Willow Creek's leaves turned fire orange, but the chill in the air had nothing to do with fall. Karen's ouster from the HOA board was official. 5-2 vote. The holdouts are Botox cronies who flipped when Apex's woes hit the headlines. She didn't go gentle. Oh no, that would require class. Instead, a scorched earth email blast to every inbox in the zip. Betrayed by outsiders who game the system. Subtle, right? The replies? A deluge of unsubscribes and block buttons, with one from Mr. Hargrove, her own father-in-law, calling her a disgrace to the family name. Oof. Blood's thicker than bylaws, apparently. Meantime, Rosa's lawsuit gained legs, amassing co-plaintiffs like a conga line at a quinceanera. The Patels joined, citing discriminatory fines on their cultural decorations, the Garcias, renters she'd evicted over a fragrance violation from their abuelita's cooking. Fair Housing Act violations stacked up like Jenga blocks, and Karen's defense? A parade of experts testifying to her exemplary character. Exemplary? The judge snorted during pre-trial. A burly Irishman named O'Brien, who collected military memorabilia. Ms. Whitaker, your character called Armed Response on a decorated veteran. Save a spin for CNBC. Apex Freight was hemorrhaging. Layoffs announced. 200 souls pink-slipped to streamline operations. Wall Street Journal ran a piece. From boardroom to backyard. How one CEO's HOA feud fueled a corporate firestorm. Karen's photo? That infamous mug from the body cam, mid-rant, looking like she'd swallowed a lemon whole. Her socials went dark. LinkedIn profile scrubbed, Twitter, or X, whatever, account suspended after a meltdown thread calling Elena a diversity hire in uniform. The internet did what it does best, amplified the outrage. Karen Koo trended nationally. Memes of her face on entitled cats flooding TikTok. Even a Saturday Night Live skit with a spot-on impersonation by that new cast member, the one with the killer deadpan. I kept my head down, grinding at work. Irony of ironies, a contract to secure Apex's servers post-breach. Eyes on the prize. Elena reminded me during her graveyard shifts, her cruiser idling outside as she scarfed my leftover carnitas. Mateo's school had a vet appreciation assembly. She spoke, badge and all, to a gym full of wide-eyed kids. Service isn't just overseas, she told them. It's standing up here, too. The principal, a vet himself, cornered me after, heard about the neighbor. If she shows, we got security. Touching, but unnecessary. Karen was a ghost now, haunting estate sales for her next flip. The deposition was the turning point, a sterile conference room in downtown Houston smelling of stale Starbucks and desperation. Karen arrived in Chanel, flanked by suits who billed by the heartbeat, but her eyes? Hollow, like she'd mainlined regret. Rosa led the charge, voice silk over steel. Ms. Whitaker, walk us through your decision to call 911 on Deputy Ramirez. Karen fidgeted, twisting her pearls. The vehicle was unmarked. Looked suspicious. As CEO, I'm trained to assess threats. Rosa slid over the transcript. Her exact words to dispatch. Armed Hispanic female, possible gang affiliation. The room iced over. Even her lawyers shifted. Gang affiliation? Rosa pressed. Based on what exactly? Karen crumbled then, a slow-motion implosion. I panicked. The neighborhood's changing. Property values. Rosa leaned in. Changing how? More diverse? Like the Ramirez's? Silence, thick as fog. Then the kicker, exhibits from the EEOC file, redacted names swapped for Karen's signature on the settlement check. Pattern of bias. Your Honor, Rosa would argue later. From warehouse floors to cul-de-sacs. Karen's team moved to adjourn, but damage done. Leaks hit the blogs by midnight, her board demanding resignation. Elena and I decompressed at a dive bar off I-35, neon buzzing Lone Star in the window. She nursed a shiner, rare for her. Think she'll fold. I shrugged. Nah, but she's bleeding. Truth was the bitterness gnawed at me. Not just the call, but the betrayal of trust. We'd invited her to Mateo's baptism, years back, before the clause showed. Now, she was the villain in our origin story. Rosa called next day. Settlement offer, 6 figures plus HOA reforms. Counter with her head, Elena said. We did. Public apology video, dissolution of the board, and a community fund for vet families. Karen balked, but O'Brien's patience was thin. Take it or trial. Your call, ma'am. She took it, the video dropping on YouTube like a dud grenade, stiff, scripted, her jowls quivering under studio lights. I regret my actions. Deeply. To Deputy Ramirez and her family, I offer my sincerest apologies. No tears, but the comments? Brutal. Too little too late. Resigned from Apex, coward. Stock plummeted further. Analysts whispering toxic leadership. Greg's divorce finalized. Alimony stingy, her half the house listed at a loss. Willow Creek's sold signs sprouted like weeds. She fled to a condo in the Woodlands, rumors of therapy and a life coach swirling. But the real gut punch came Thanksgiving. Apex imploded. Hostile takeover by a Chinese rival. Karen's golden parachute popped like bubble wrap. She surfaced on LinkedIn, excited for new opportunities, but the pity likes were sparse. Elena and I hosted the block. Turkey and tamales, no bylaws in sight. The Patels brought samosas, Garcias, flan. Toast to resilience, Mateo leading with a crayon-drawn thanks, Mom. As plates cleared a knock, Karen, uninvited, pie in hand like a peace offering. Just wanted to say Merry Christmas early. Elena met her at the door, gracious as ever. Appreciated. But boundaries, Karen. Learn 'em. She left pie less, the door clicking shut like finality. Victory tasted sweet, but hollow. Revenge doesn't fill the cracks it exposes. Still, as snow dusted the eaves that rare Texas night, I held Elena close, Mateo snoring between us. We'd won the war, but the scars? They'd fade slower than grudges. Winter gripped Willow Creek like a bad debt collector, frost etching the windows and turning the lawns to brittle battlegrounds. By New Year's, Karen Whitaker was a cautionary tale. Her name shorthand for every HOA horror story swapped at water coolers from Austin to Atlanta. Apex Freight rebranded under new blood. The old guard purged like yesterday's earnings report. She tried consulting gigs, LinkedIn pitches for crisis management expertise, but doors slammed polite, thank you, but no. The settlement cash vanished into lawyer fees and a down payment on a starter condo that screamed downgraded. Her empire reduced to IKEA bookshelves and a rescue labradoodle that chewed her Manolos. We rebuilt slow, the Ramirez way. Elena rotated back to full-time deputy, patrolling the county's back roads with that quiet authority that made perps fold. I scored a promotion, remote lead on a DoD contract, irony not lost. Working from the sunroom Elena reclaimed as her war room, maps and mugs charting our next adventure. Mateo thrived, his teacher noting the resilience boost post-drama, trading superhero capes for soccer cleats. The HOA dissolved, reformed under Mrs. Patel as interim prez. Picnics, not prosecutions. Banners flew free. Pride flags next to stars and stripes. Diwali lanterns twinkling without fines. Karen's dissent was public, the kind that feeds true crime addicts. Spring brought the indictments. Federal wire fraud from the EPA dodge. Her emails a trail of hubris. Bury it deep, boys. No one's digging in bumfuck Texas. Rosa got a shout-out in the Times op-ed. When suburbia meets justice. Karen's arraignment? Circus. Paparazzi flashing as she shuffled in. No Chanel, just County Orange peeking under the jacket. Plea deal. 2 years probation. Community service at a vet shelter. Fitting. Mucking stalls for the heroes she'd scorned. She showed once at the intake, hair limp, scooping kibble with trembling hands. Elena spotted her from the adoption event, Mateo petting a stray mutt. "Should we say hi?" he asked, innocent. She shook her head. "Some lessons, Mijo, you learn alone." The final nail? Summer scandal, Greg's tell-all to a tabloid. My ex-wife, the monster next door. Spill on the rages, the manipulations, even a hushed-up affair with the HOA landscaper that explained those emergency meetings. Public devoured it, Netflix sniffing for a docuseries. Karen lawyered up again, countersuing for defamation, but it fizzled. Evidence too damning, her credibility ash. She vanished after that. Whispers of a cousin's farm in Oklahoma, trading boardrooms for barn chores. Last I heard, she volunteered at a food bank, dishing soup to the down and out, irony thick as gravy. For us, closure came quiet, a backyard vow renewal under the magnolias, Elena in white lace, Mateo ring-bearer with a grin wider than the Rio Grande. Vows updated. Through deployments and driveways, I choose you. Rosa officiated, toasting with mezcal shots. To Karen's everywhere, stay in your lane. Laughter echoed, the neighborhood a chorus of cicadas and clinking glasses. No sirens, no summons, just us, unbroken. Looking back, that homecoming ambush was the fracture that freed us. Karen's fall? Not triumph. Exactly. More like exhaling after holding breath too long. She'd wanted control, the illusion of order in a world that spins wild. But life, American as apple pie and AKs, doesn't bend to bullies. It breaks them, slow and sure, leaving room for the rest of us to bloom. Elena's poppies returned that spring, defiant reds against the green, a reminder, roots run deep, and revenge? It's just fertilizer. As the sun dips now over our cul-de-sac, new neighbors waving from the old Whitaker place, a young couple with twins and a hybrid. I pour Elena her evening tea, badge off, boots kicked by the door. Think she'll ever get it? She muses, stirring honey. I shrug, pulling her close. Doesn't matter. We did. And in that, the real badge. Not tin, but the kind forged in fire, shining brighter for the scars.